Hello everybody, welcome back to Hidden Harvest with Liz. Today we are what ifing, and of course that means picking some sort of... My light is listening to me. Picking some sort of item in order to what if. There's a lot of ideas that I have, some of which are kind of vague. And today I've got a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. First off, the inspiration. Secondly, my notebook. I decided that since we're going to be what ifing, and there's probably going to be a lot of different things, some which are helpful and some that are so totally not helpful, they're laughable. And that's kind of the whole point in the series, is not to be so serious about conspiracy theorizing. It's more of an exercise in thinking outside the box. And this is kind of an idea I had for the homesteading channel because in a lot of cases, being in this type of scenario, you really have to think outside the box to solve everyday scenarios. What's going to happen whenever you run your hose across the yard and you realize there's a hole in the hose? So it's just like, okay, well, the brain is kind of like a muscle. If you don't use it, it stops working properly. And I think with the food the way it is, the medicines the way they are, our intense need for sugars and caffeine, sometimes we just need like that mental exercise to help us get going. So I have got a notebook here because I'm going to start writing these things down as kind of a journal of survival and conspiracy, because I've got a very bad memory. This way I can actually remember what it is we were theorizing, why we were theorizing it, and just kind of other things that came from those ideas. I may not even be able to use the idea or the concept that we were talking about, but perhaps it might lead to other things that I might need to know. So this is my way of maintaining that. Last time that we did this, I theorized, just as kind of a throw-off thing, what would you do if there was no bread in the store? Because we actually went through that during 2020 and 2021. And my solution was look up recipes for bread and try them out. The extension on that was try new recipes, find a recipe. And on extension of that, I actually have in here, because I do a whole lot better with pen and paper. I don't know about anybody else. I know a lot of people like using their computers. My computers are basically full of games. Whenever somebody asked me if I'd like a couple of games inside my computer, I said yes. They were like, okay, which ones and how many? Yes. I don't have a whole lot of extra space for a whole lot of planning. Besides, in the spirit of what ifing, what if I need this information and the power's out, or my computer is down, or the internet's gone, or, you know, anything else like that, if we what if that kind of scenario. And I guess you could say that brings us to today's what if. So, what if we do not have power? Well, I can think of a lot of problems with not having power inside of your house, not having any electricity. A lot of things are going to go on. But let's stop there before we get sidetracked. The goal is to come up with one item. Just one, no more, no less, unless, of course, we want to play around with the idea later on. The goal here is to try and think of one thing that we could possibly do to help whenever this situation happens. That way we can revisit the same what if later on and propose yet another solution that we may need. Who knows? So on that mode, I am going to take all of my what ifs and actually write them on a pen and paper. Weird, I know. Yes, guys, I am old-fashioned. I like pen and paper. I like the way it feels to be able to write on paper. I don't know about you guys, but it's also useful in that if for some reason, first off, you can't get to your computer, or the power's out when you need the information, or insert whatever happened to why you can't get into the information that is on your computer, or if you put it on a tablet, or if you put it into a laptop and they're not charged. Those are problems. If you need that information, say we're out of bread that we've already what ifed, but for some reason or another, I don't have any power right now. That proposes another problem because I have electric stoves. So I would have to find another way of preparing it, but that's not necessarily the thing. This is my what if for this week. What do you do when most of the information that we get online nowadays is important for life? I, on a regular basis, look up recipes for things that I'm cooking, and even things that I have cooked hundreds of times before. What do I do when I can't go online to check the time, the temperature, how much of a certain type of fluid do I add to this stew in order to make it taste right? What do I do? So there is your solution, is to take some of the information. You don't necessarily have to take all of it because, I mean, obviously you're not going to be able to include all of the stuff that Google has in it and put it inside a notebook. Kind of seems a little bit senseless anyway. But you can take some of your favorites, some of the important ones, like the recipe for bread. Might still be very, very important if I need it, because if the power is going to be out for a few days, and for some reason I can't get to the store to get bread, one of the main things that we do here in the South whenever snow is coming is go out and buy our milk and bread for our milk sandwiches. Guys, even we don't know why we do it. We just do it. Every single time. We don't know why. None of us. We're in the store buying our milk and bread and looking at each other. You got your milk and bread? Mm-hmm. You got your milk and bread? Mm-hmm. Why are we here? Mm-hmm. But I got my milk and bread. So, one of the things that we could possibly do is make sure that we have a different way of preserving the milk and the bread. Obviously, you can keep things like powdered milk, or you can keep canned milk or whatever, just in case you need those. And you can also make your own bread. But if you don't have recipes for certain items written down outside of the internet, there's a chance whenever you can't get to it, you may not be able to make the thing that you're thinking about. And who knows? It would be a bad idea if it was the only thing that you have at your house to cook. I would wager that's a huge bad deal. Don't ever, we'll get to that, but always keep a few days worth of food on hand at all times. Just because you never know, there could be like a car problem and you can't get to the store. There could be a gas issue and you can't get to the store. And who knows, it may not even be you who needs it. It could be like family. Somebody in your family lost their job or something like that and they don't have any food in their house. And they come to you as like, look, I've actually been out of work for 2 weeks and my family's hungry. We've eaten all of our food and we don't have anything. Do you have anything you can give us that's on hand? And it's like, well, yes, actually, I have a couple of days of extra food here. Here you go. Now, I think I've actually done like 5 or 6 what ifs. I can do this all day, guys. No joke. I can what if a lot of things, which is the reason why I do this type of stuff, because I have to have some place for this stuff to go. So I actually have a notebook. My sloppy handwriting. Oh my gosh. Anywho, I've got the date, the what if, the name one thing. One thing, just one thing. Don't overdo it. Don't overthink it. Don't make it complicated. One thing to do about it. And if possible, list an inspiration that gave you the reason to what if the specific scenario, if I can word. I was going to use, until I actually said this could be my what if, I was actually going to use a couple of movies that I had seen this week, or a couple of things that I had seen this week. One was YouTube was offering The Stand, which is a very old movie. I think it's from 1984-ish. Something like that. A lot of younger people probably have not seen that. They probably don't even know what it is. It is actually a movie from the book The Stand, done by Stephen King before he lost his damn mind. Long story short, it is another one of those, there is an outbreak of something. I don't think they ever defined what it was that caused it, if it was a strain of flu or whatever. I don't think it was ever actually named. I don't think they lasted long enough. During that, and there was, what was the other thing that I was watching? I have already forgotten what it was. But whenever you talk about zombie apocalypses, it's the same scenario. Whenever it comes to like an outbreak or something like that, whenever you think about those types of scenarios, whenever you analyze those, first off, it's very, very easy to accidentally get to the point to where you could what if that scenario and get very upset and overthink everything. It's like, I can't possibly prepare for something of that magnitude. So the point is not to analyze something of that magnitude. The point is to analyze a piece of it and only come away with one thing at a time. If we were analyzing The Stand, by the way, which is it's actually kind of, it's almost got a biblical undercarriage to it, but not exactly. It's more like demons and stuff. I don't really know. It's weird. I really think Stephen King has nightmares and has his entire life and loves a thesaurus. So there was an outbreak. A certain percentage of the population was immune to it. They survive and they're drawn towards a woman who is seen as good, and she prays in the whole 9 yards. And then there's this other dude who is obviously a demon. He attracts rats and he has horns and a thing for very short ladies. So there's that. And during this whole process, there's a group of people that have to traverse the world to try and get to those areas. So instead of thinking about all of that and being part of the 10% that somehow or another is autoimmune to whatever the disease is, it's better to think, okay, if I was to what if that scenario, just outright assume that somehow or another I was part of that 10% that survived. What's one thing that I would be more inclined to focus on as my one thing that I would want to worry about? And my answer might surprise you. It's not gloves, it's not masks, it's not the Bible, it's not, well, I mean, actually, the Bible would probably be a good one too, because if you're in that scenario, you obviously got to believe at that point. If you get into that situation, you got to believe your eyes at some point. But it would actually just be shoes. I don't know how many of those characters were wearing cowboy boots. It's crazy. Or some of them were wearing heels. And I'm like, why? Why? You're traveling. That's the main thing, is all of them from like New York to all over the US were all going towards this one town, and they were all wearing weird stuff. There was like two characters that even made sense. They had bikes. It's like it does not compute that you guys are walking around in cowboy boots. I mean, those would hurt after a while. I would want myself a good thick pair of tennis shoes. That's just me. But anyway, I mean, travel the way you want to. But out of that, what if it would have been tennis shoes? That would be the first thing, and that would be so easy to cover. Why? Because I already have that. But if that scenario happened, if that crazy scenario actually happened, and out of all the things that were going on, you know, the loss of life, the are we infected, the we have to travel, we're having nightmares, everything's lucid, things are going freaky, that whole scenario, one thing that I could possibly look inside my house and say, okay, I've got one thing prepared for this scenario. It's stupid, but I have one thing. It's my shoes. I have a decent pair of tennis shoes. And as long as I keep a decent pair of tennis shoes inside my house, I'm covered for that one thing. Anyway, that's an aside. This is the actual what if. Anyway, the next thing on here is if needed, wanted, expand here. Like if you can think of a what if that really gets the juices flowing, and you can think of several things that are actually within your ability to do, or that you already have, and you want to be able to list those on your paper so that it's more like a, I don't know, it's like a win in your box. It's like, I've already won this one because I can think of so many things I already have in this scenario. For instance, zombie apocalypse. Okay, several things that I already have in this house for a zombie apocalypse. I've got a baseball bat. I've got shovels outside. I've got, you know, any number of things. You could actually expand that here, things that you're either thinking about, things that you've contemplated. Also, you could do listing of research, which is my next one. And that would be, okay, well, what if whatever you think of isn't something that's even in the realm of possibility because you don't know how to do it? Is it something you're actually interested in learning how to do? Is it applicable to your life? And where would you find this information? Are there classes on it that you could actually take? Are there things that you can find? Are there, you know, places on the internet where you can find this information? Is it something that you can learn on your own after you watch a couple of things and maybe tinker around with it for some reason or another? Your what if solution is make a cabinet. But you don't know how to make a cabinet. You've never seen anybody make a cabinet. You haven't ever worked with wood. Are you interested in learning how to work with wood? Are you interested in learning how to make a cabinet? Well, you could list down several sites, like several YouTube videos that you like watching, places that you might go to get wood, or pamphlets that you might buy, books that you might buy that would teach you how to do it. And you could put those on a list and slowly work your way through those by watching the videos, maybe investing in a book every now and then or something like that. That would be where all that extra stuff is. Or even taking the class. Do you have a local class? How much is it? Could you fit it into your life schedule? Or something like that. That's where the research would actually come in handy for the what if. And then does and how it can help in real day-to-day life. Can the what if even be useful at all for normal life? Can this what if that is way outside of purview help me with day-to-day? Okay, well, in the case of this one, This what if is what if we don't have electricity? This notebook could actually help me in day-to-day life. Why? Because I have a bad memory. If I'm preparing notes for the whatever we're gonna what if the next time, I could actually go ahead and write down the things that I've already thought of. And that would give me a chance to actually talk about them like I have some damn sense. I'm not saying that's actually true, guys. I usually don't, and I'm usually way caffeinated to be thinking about these things, which is the reason why you got like 5 or 6 what ifs in this one video. But this prep right here, and I will call it a prep because there are preps or preparations you can do for other things, like, I don't know, having extra food in your house would be considered a prep, so I guess that kind of sort of makes you a prepper, but not really. You're not a doomsday prepper, you're just preparing for something. There's nothing wrong with that. Get that thought out of your head. But this one, useful. The one where we're talking about the stand where everybody had to go across country to meet up with folks. Tennis shoes. Are tennis shoes useful in day-to-day life, and would they just be a drain on me? I already own tennis shoes. I would like to have a second pair of tennis shoes, and tennis shoes are useful. So in that particular instance, that prep is useful. If I were to say zombie apocalypse, and I wanted to prepare a baseball bat, well, I don't play baseball. Nobody in my family plays baseball. Nobody's interested in starting a league of any sort. Would me going out buying a baseball bat actually be useful for my family? Probably not. I can't really think of another chance where a baseball bat might be useful. You might think, well, home defense. A baseball bat might be useful for home defense, but I've got a couple of hole punchers in the house, so I really don't need a baseball bat. Maybe it might be useful, and believe it or not, I do actually have a baseball bat in the house. But it's been sitting there for years. Nobody's used it for anything. It's just taking up space. So I'd rather invest another hole puncher than a baseball bat. But then again, you might be saying, well, what if your hole puncher runs out of propellers? I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be subtle about these things. What if it runs out of the things which punch the holes? Well, in that case, having some sort of a melee defense would be useful, in which case you probably would pull out the baseball bat. But in day-to-day life, is that useful? Maybe not. It might be useful if you have grandkids that like to play baseball or something like that. So in that case, your prep might be, okay, I said I wanted a baseball, but maybe the next time I think about this particular what if something different that might actually be useful for day-to-day life. What if, instead of preparing a baseball bat, I prepared a shovel? Useful in day-to-day life if you're a gardener. Not useful if you're not. So it just depends. Everybody's got a different life. You might actually have a baseball player in your life and nobody does gardening, in which case a baseball bat makes more sense. So anyway, and then up in the corner is my tinfoil hat rating, which is basically a guide to say, this is kind of likely and this is not likely. Not at all. Please stop thinking about this. You need sleep. My tinfoil hat theory would be like, it's a 0 to 5 rating, 5 being it's very, very unlikely to happen. I would put zombie apocalypse on the 5 setting. Like, there's no chance, really. There are chances, otherwise we wouldn't talk about conspiracy theories. There's the chance that rabies jumps animals and suddenly it's air transmissible and that turns into the zombie apocalypse. So it's not impossible. I've given up calling things impossible, but it's not likely. So that would probably rate a 5 on the tinfoil hat rating, whereas on 0 end would be, what if we don't have bread in the store? Before, I would have said that that would be a, I don't know, a 3, because it's highly unlikely that our local stores would run out of bread. After 2020 and 2021, my rating has changed. It's now 0. It is very likely because I've actually seen it happen. If something disrupts the lines of any sort, it occurs to me not just what happened in 2021 causes all of that, it was also some of the offshoots, some of the other things that happened during that time that disrupted sales and disrupted shipping and disrupted a lot of things. There's actually a lot of problems with our supply lines. And now having seen it in person, I'm like, Yeah, it's likely. So on a 0 to 5 rating, it's definitely a 0 or at least a 1. On my tinfoil hat rating, is there a chance that I might go into the store and not be able to find bread? Yeah, there's a good chance that at some point in my life again that will happen. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know that that was kind of long-winded and a lot of stuff, and I did what if several things during all of that. But just to let you guys know that I'm going to start keeping this notebook. This is an unusual series. I've never seen anybody do a series like this for their homesteading channel. But my goal is not to make anybody upset or scare anybody or cause people to overthink or get anxiety about the future in any way. It's an exercise in opening up your ability to problem solve. It's like, okay, well, I'm out in the yard, I'm working on a thing, and something goes wrong. What do I do? Well, if you haven't spent time problem solving at all, or haven't in a long time, it might take a while and you might resort to, I don't know, going online to find more information, or going out and buying the solution instead of fixing it. Whereas if you spend some time problem solving and you actually go into your own life saying, what if such and such, and it becomes something that's fun to do. It's like, I could go buy the solution to what is giving me a problem. Like, I've got a hole in my hose. I could just go buy another hose. It's easy. I could just go get one. But if I've what if, and I think of it as a puzzle, and I can solve this puzzle, I'm less likely to go out and buy another hose and be like, okay, well, chances are I'm going to get another hose. The other hose can get a hole in it too. Is there a way to fix the hose? I mean, can I, instead of buying new hoses, can I buy patches to go over the hose so I can water the garden, and anytime any water hose gets a hole, I can fix it? That's kind of the point of the what ifs. It's the think outside the box, think of it as a problem solver, and find ways to implement that into your life. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the day. I'm thinking next week we're actually going to be doing something a little bit different and what ifing something a little bit on the supernatural side. It should be pretty fun. I'll see you guys then. You have a wonderful day, wonderful night, and you stay shiny. Bye!